Thanks. Hello. All right. Let's get this party started. So tonight we have present Chris, Suzanne, Michael, Ann, David, and Beth, myself, Brittany, and with the town, we have Kay, Lori, and Luis. Moving on, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from last month? Or are there any corrections, comments? No.
Making a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And in Beth, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Minutes approved. No one is missing that pertains to the agenda. Lori, would you like to talk about the budget? There's not much to talk about.
No, it's pretty much just a few expenses for Facebook ads and that was it.
Okay, perfect. And since we're talking about budget, do you want to also touch base on the sculpture restoration? And
Oh, yeah. I forgot to add it to the agenda, but just briefly, we have a couple sculptures that do need maintenance severely. One is that one, the climbing one on 3rd and Main, the rec center. Eric Brenlinger, the rec director, specifically asked me about that. And then I want to also paint the to shout. It's that black box that looks just terrible. We've been rattle canning it, but it looks bad, so it needs touch up. So I finally found a painter to respond. His best guess, well, he would charge $50 an hour for labor plus materials. So he's not quite sure about the material cost. That's kind of a floating thing, but he guessed it would be about $1,000 to $1,200 per sculpture to do.
To do the whole restoration.
Yeah, to paint it, well, to sand it, get the rust off, prime it, paint it. And then he would put a high gloss or a UV gloss on it. And he could do it late April, early May and spring. So, you know, the rec center is probably a given that has to be done. If CPAC chooses to want to keep the climbing sculpture, then it has to be done. If you choose not to do it, then it can be given back to the artist or removed, but it can't stay in that condition anymore.
The artist and how did it end up over there? Just don't know the history.
I don't, it's just a long history. I've talked to Amy years ago and she didn't really claim it. So
It's so long, no one knows the story.
so it's on a town right away. So it's
oh, looks like Brian is joining us.
so I guess it would be good to have some sort of direction on that.
Well, it sounds like it's a two-part question. One, do we want to maintain the sculptures before restoring them? And then after we decide that, two, when would we like them restored? Or is that enough? Is the bid enough? Or do you want to seek a second option for restoration? I would caution that, as most contractors are extremely busy and it's difficult to get anyone to do small projects at this time.
This guy sounds quite, you know,
They're,
what you'd expect.
they're bonded, licensed, and so the town would require that. He'd be under contract for those certain ones.
Is
Yeah.
it just those two at this time?
The sculptures.
Yeah, that need to be,
And the base. There is another little thing floating out there. There's a memorial sculpture in Soapers Park that was donated 30 years ago. And the owner of that called to kind of see what should be done. She was willing to take it away. But I've asked Eric Brandlinger, the Parks and Rec Director, his perspective, because it's a memorial piece and they have memorial benches and everything through town. So I think it's more of a park and rec issue than ours, but he also knows we have a painter coming. And if he would like to have it painted, he could tag on to that. And Eric's been very busy lately with family things, so I'm not gonna bother him, but he knows that option's there. So we'll try to nail that down before we would have that painter come out.
Okay.
So what black box are you talking about?
It's just that base that Shout Stand is on over on the promenade. It's that black.
Oh, that, okay.
It looks terrible. So it would be nice to have some permanent solution for that.
Personally, I think it would be nice to have this done before the show or decided so that they're up to par with everything else that's happening.
Me too. It seems like April, May is a great window.
That's
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we need to get it done in the spring before anything else. It's been postponed so long that.
Is there a line item in the budget for maintenance?
Yeah, it's the 1% fund.
Oh, okay. All right.
Actually, I've got questions about that. I know traditionally it's come out of the 1% fund, but I think it's confusing and we need clarification on that. If you look at the resolution, number 2005-14, what it says is, all costs, responsibilities, administration will be reflected in the department of the town, and any costs and responsibilities with maintenance and repair will be reflected in the budget of the department. Now, CPAC is a commission. We give advice and all of that, but we're not a department. And permanent sculptures are not in a department of the CPAC, but they're probably in the Department of Public Works. Therefore, this should be coming out of the budget of Public Works and not the 1%. The 1% fund very clearly states that maintenance of sculptures is not a use of those funds. I've been working on this for months, trying to get the town to make it just, to declare something about this, because it's very clearly written. And we have not been abiding by that. So anyway, I think that making decisions is one thing, but approving a budget out of CPAC or the 1% fund, it would be premature until the Board of Trustees or somebody makes a change to this resolution, or it gets put in the budget where it really belongs, which is whoever has the Department of the Public Sculptures. And to me, I think that is Public Works and streets and such.
So David, you met with Lauren, the new town manager. Did you not have resolution?
Did not. She was new, trying to get through things. The question was raised, and I tried, I gave her maybe 2 weeks. I tried the other day to get in touch with her. I tried today to get in touch with her, unsuccessful. So as far as I know, anyway.
Well,
The
did you
question-
did you understand that it's probably been explained several times that the Public Art Commission line item is in the Public Works Department budget?
The CPAC gets a budget.
Yeah, from
Right.
Public Works, and you are, the CPAC
That-
commission line
right.
item is in Public Works.
That may be, but the maintenance does not come out of the 1% fund. And if it comes out of CPAC, then maintenance needs to be part of the CPAC budget and or out of the Public Works budget, but it's not 1% for the arts.
Well, Jay Harrington has always taken money out of the 1% fund for maintenance because the town needs to maintain their art. So either CPAC decides to not have a permanent collection to maintain, and then the town can then take it out, they can maintain it. But if you're going to have art, you got to maintain it. And so the 1% fund enables the town to maintain the art. that CPAC has chosen to accept. Now, if you would like, to take this maintenance money out of the CPAC budget of, $5,000, that's fine, then we don't have to do a reception and we can do away with marketing. We can just get to honorariums and pay for maintenance. If that's what CPAC wants to do, then,
Well, I'm
go-
not certain, Lori, that those options are the only options.
Well, they pretty
And
much
I
are.
think that the resolution clearly states that maintenance is in the department. So the department is Public Works. The commission is not a department. Therefore, this needs to come out of the Public Works budget
It is.
unless,
So
It
Luis,
does.
what would you?
I mean,
and
David,
1% fund is not that. 1% is designed
yeah,
for the purchase of artwork because the town wants artwork. It does,
We're not
and I
buying
agree
those.
that maintenance is part of it.
Can I ask a question? The climbing sculpture and the sculpture here that both need to be restored are part of the permanent collection.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then secondarily, there's a CPAC budget and separately there's a 1% budget.
CPAC has a line item amount in the Public Works budget. Yes,
And then the 1% is separate from that.
it is.
Mhm.
Yes. And that's where commissions go from the sale of the sculptures.
To the 1% fund.
Yes, yes. So CPAC is funding that with sales of the sculpture that then enhances and protects and maintains the permanent sculptures.
Makes sense.
It's
No,
pretty simple.
So
no,
maybe,
maintenance is not part of it. Read the resolution.
We do not-
David, maybe since
But the
we have
easy-
Luis on the commission,
Yeah.
he could take it
well,
and just, if it needs to have a couple words tweaked. So
I mean,
it
I think
reflects
that's
what we do.
I think that's one way to fix it. But David, I mean, I don't disagree with you on this. I think it is something that we have to address in our budgeting process through the town to either add additional funds that are specifically targeted towards maintenance of our sculptures. Because if you're reading of it, I don't disagree with you that, that part should be reserved for the acquisition of sculpture. And granted, you can have something that is separate that goes towards maintenance. It's just something we have to budget as a town specifically
That's right.
for. So, I mean, I don't think we're that far off on it. I think the intent is the same for all of us, is that we own something now. It's a town asset and we have to maintain it.
Yes,
So I think
except-
go ahead.
I agree with what you're saying. However, the intent of the 1% is for the arts. It's for artwork to enhance the community.
Yeah.
Granted, maintenance of that is critically important, but the intent of that resolution was to acquire artwork, to have beautiful architectural design, to have all of these things to enhance the community. And it very specifically states that the maintenance falls under the department because the town wants more art, at least at the time of the resolution, wanted more art, wanted more involvement of these things. And yes, maintenance is critical, and it was addressed by the department. So if the police station becomes new, and we have artwork with the police station budget would then have to provide the maintenance. Now,
No.
that's
No,
how it's
no,
intended.
no. that doesn't work that way, David.
That's a little bit, it has to be its own separate line. It's
Can I ask
not,
a question? How
Yeah.
difficult is it to amend the resolution?
It's not.
it's not.
Right.
Maybe
Well, I
that's the
also want to interject,
solution.
CPAC a few years ago voted to not purchase art. That 1% fund was not going to be used to purchase art because we've got so much art. It needs to be maintained. It wasn't going to be taken on. We can't even agree to maintain those two pieces that are falling apart. So, they've already decided to nix that idea.
All this needs to be in writing, and it all needs to be amended and or decided upon. The way it
David, can I
currently
please make a
is not
suggestion?
correct.
David, can I make
Yeah.
a suggestion, please? How about you draft up an amendment to this?
No, I don't want to draft any
And-
amendment. You draft it. I'm happy the way things
Move
are.
on. We have a
Yeah.
show to put
Can we
together and
table
he's been
this?
beating that drum for a long time. So he's had everybody talking about it.
I-
We
I-
got to move on.
All right, moving on. Let's talk about the Cafe Art Town Show selection.
Do you want me to just
Um,
recap what I sent?
Yeah, please
Just
do.
recap it because it's pretty cut and dried. I went through and contacted a lot of artists that have the final jury group on Friday afternoon at CMC had questions about. There were questions about what's actually being submitted, sizes, colors, all those sorts of things. So I pretty much got answers from everyone and a lot of some of the applications weren't very clear on their submissions. So I tried to clarify those and I apologize. The notes are messy. These are my handwritten notes, but I'm not able to change this in CAFÉ. But for the most part, I hope you can get a feel for kind of how the show turned out based on feedback from the artists and your selections at jury, and then your few votes this week to clarify. So I've sent you the final show, and then I also sent the alternates. And to address Brian's question about the chicken ball, well, there's a name, the foul ball in Sioux Falls. And what I just wanted to mention was the same artist, Lee Badger, did that as well as the interlock tangles. And that was voting very high. So that kind of made it into the final jury. That the foul ball didn't make it as far, Brian. So that's kind of the philosophy on that. But if you guys want to put the foul ball to be the first alternate, I think that again could go to a vote like we've been doing to try to clarify the show. So that's up to you guys, but that was the philosophy. It's the same artist.
And isn't there something about not having the same artist have two selections, or it's not?
No, they can.
They can.
Yeah, they can have as many submissions as they would like. We were just hoping they would do like he did, submitted separate things, which is
But I'm saying
fantastic.
It's okay if he ends up having two in the same show?
No,
No.
no. And that's why,
They're alternates anyway.
Yeah.
yeah.
We choose one.
So the first alternate, as you can see in your packet, I think I included 5 alternates
You did.
based on scoring kind of in the order. So if we get to an alternate situation, you can see who the first alternate is. If you choose to want to do the foul ball first, then I think that should be a vote.
Is the foul ball in here?
Where's the alternate stuff?
Here.
They were 2 separate sheets.
These are over here. Oh, they're in. I've written in a copy. Oh, right. So I got the two that say Lee Badger.
Yeah.
Those are the two.
Can I grab
alternates.
one?
Okay.
Thank you, Lori.
So
And
it's,
not everything that's stapled is the actual.
It wasn't emailed.
Oh, okay. Got it.
so that was just kind of the last minute thing that I should have
Right, me
explained
too.
better.
Okay, so is that what the email today was that Brian was replying to?
Yes.
Yes.
Crane over foul ball?
Yes, we had initially in the CMC jury discussed replacing the crane with foul ball because we all didn't really like the crane very much that were present in the room.
I
Um,
did.
Oh, thanks. My mistake. Anne liked it. But if you want to bump one of the foul ball or the, what is this one called?
Well, this one didn't,
These are.
it didn't really
square.
come up as an alternate. I was
Okay.
demonstrating the
High
philosophy of why the whole thing happened,
Okay, I see.
which probably makes no sense at this point. Makes no
So-
sense.
So,
You're saying that the alternates that start with this post-it
Yes,
here
Yeah.
yes,
are really ahead of,
yes,
okay, got it.
yeah, thank
Both
you.
of these.
well,
What?
no, it's just
Yeah,
foul
both
ball.
of those, actually.
Okay.
Are later.
These
Okay.
stapled alternates in order are in order of scoring.
Right.
And then
Okay.
the
So we
foul.
don't really have to pick from an alternate unless we get a no can do from the chosen few. Correct.
Most of them are they're pretty solid because I spoke to like all of them except one or two artists that we've had in the past that I know are good to go.
And do any have a long distance to travel?
Yes, they do. And I confirmed that.
They're all game.
Yep, the artist with,
Canadian gentleman, right? The feather?
no, yes, he's from Canada.
Yeah.
Different than the Canadian who did the.
Nope.
No, it's the same
one.
guy.
Ah.
Yeah.
And then the big kaleidoscope Lakeland that you all voted on.
Oh.
He is from Maryland, I believe. And I've confirmed with him a couple different times that he will come and deliver.
Wonderful.
And yeah, some of these have been in the show before, so I know they're pretty good.
Do we have any concerns about anyone backing out at this time?
I will say, Russ Connell, he is the guy that, he actually has the steel box stacked here on the Rio. He's the one that you all voted on with the red steel sculpture. Now, he wanted me to just, say again that he is building a specific sculpture for Carbondale. And it may or may not be red. He said he decides as he gets it completed, which is understandable. He's an artist. It depends on how he feels. So that might vary a little bit.
Tell me his name.
Russ Connell. It's,
Oh.
Yeah.
But this is the actual look of the piece. He's just not sure the color.
Very similar, yes.
okay.
I love it.
It's very similar.
I think that's fine.
Yeah,
Does everyone else feel the same on that?
he's from Texas.
Okay.
He's slightly different. Well, could be, will be.
And then everyone was okay with having two red sculptures, since that Patrick Sullivan entry. Right? Oh, no, I'm sorry, Richard Ferguson, the
Yeah.
Mobius sculpture, that's also red and not pink as we originally thought.
Mhm.
We're okay with having two, potentially.
I kind of want to break the pink. The bunny
And tentacles. Sounds good. Any questions on the final selection as it stands? Or the alternates?
What am I supposed to do if we need an alternate?
Should we contact them and let them know they've been chosen as an alternate?
I haven't told anybody they're in the show yet. I haven't confirmed with anybody.
Okay,
My question is, if we need an alternate, do we go to the,
I see. Yeah. Okay, then let's discuss, do we wish to maintain the Solace Bronze as the first alternate, or would we like to utilize Foul Ball as the first alternate?
I like foul ball.
Brian, do you want to pitch that? You like
I
it?
mean, yeah, that's my preference, of course, but
No, I'm a fan of it too.
that was high on my list.
I dig it.
So let's
I
put
did
it
like
to a
the
vote.
Solace.
All in favor?
Horrible.
Foul Ball.
I'm voting yes too.
I have 5 votes of yes. Did you?
No. But I don't,
The
I mean,
solace.
if it's majority, I'm fine. I thought we were putting it as the third alternate, replacing the crane.
I like the crane too.
Well, I didn't think we were like changing the order, but whatever majority does, is fine with me.
Okay,
That's just not my choice, so.
that's fair. It's a democracy after all.
yeah,
Right.
that's fair,
Okay,
totally fair.
What'd you say, Brian?
Totally fair. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, even like his square, so.
Yeah.
So Lori, is the next step that you contact the finalists?
Yeah, CAFÉ, you're able to craft an email that Brittany has done for the invited folks. And so that's ready to go. So we can just send them an email for confirmation of that. And then we can do the same thing for the alternates.
Okay, cool. Should we at least let them know there's the possibility they would be in the show?
Yeah, we should craft a new
Okay,
email
Yeah.
for the alternates. We
Yeah.
haven't done that.
yeah,
Yeah, we had 2 or 3 last year.
yeah.
Thank God
Yeah,
we-
yes, last year and I will
Make me
say.
feel
it
better.
Has been, and it's good to take a breath after that final jury at CMC because it used to be like, ta-da. You know, and then we would call everybody and then they would show up and it'd be in the trunk and it wouldn't be together. It'd be like, oh my God. So to have a few days to dial that in and actually kind of just feel out the sculpture, their delivery, commitment is really good. Because it just, there were so many loose holes in this. And so we would have had more of a nightmare at install like we have had before. So this was really good to have a few days to breathe and then meet and kind of confirm.
And then with these selections, I know in the past you've had to make sure that you have a proper basis for them. You've already done all that.
Well, just mentally, yeah, I've talked to a couple guys at Public Works and Kevin about their perspective. And I think it'll be,
Is the height gonna be okay?
yeah, pretty easy, yeah.
Okay. Very tall ones.
There's a lot of, it's a theme again, you know, this year,
Yeah.
they're big, metally and army. It's funny how,
For this guy?
yeah, they're big, but I think we'll be okay.
Good. Glad to hear that. Well, all of that sounds good. Do you have any additional information on what lies beneath?
Oh, no, the process has been, I was emailed by potential buyers who were interested in it. And so I let the artist know somebody's potentially interested and that went for a few months. And then the potential buyers said, hey, you know, is this negotiable? I asked the artist. So it went back a few times via email, whatever anybody wanted to do. And so the buyers offered 9,500 and the artist was very pleased. So I have sent them the contract and asked them to send a check and things to town hall. So once that's done, then we know we have a deal. So I just wanted you all to know that's pending.
Was the original price 12,000?
Yeah, like 12.5.
Is the buyer happen to be local?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Fun. Do we have anything else we'd like to discuss this evening?
Well, don't we need to make a decision about the maintenance?
Or I think we need to make a decision on the alternates, right? I mean, are we getting rid of?
We did vote to have foul ball be our first alternate. I don't think that negates the
Did we have a
Solus.
second on the motion?
There was,
That's what we did.
there was
Oh, okay.
five.
Okay.
It was kind of that loose vote, like, you know.
But Suzanne, I think, so years past, we have gotten into the alternates more than just one or two.
Yeah.
Right,
And that's what Lori was saying.
right.
So we kind of keep them all and see how far into it we get.
Okay, gotcha.
But this year, like, again, because we had a couple days to breathe and go through it, I feel pretty
It's more
solid
solid.
about what's happening.
Which is awesome. I do agree that it would be nice to make a decision on maintenance. Do we have a motion to move forward with maintaining these two sculptures as discussed?
I think personally, I'd like to get a little bit more clarification on the 1%. And I do think maintenance is important, and I think we can decide whether to maintain those. I mean, if, personal opinion about the climbing sculpture is that even if it's painted, it feels dated. And if there's an option to give it back to the artist, or I'd like to explore what that looks like. But aside from that, I think, at the meeting with Lauren and David and Beth. And so I think that there's probably need for some like acknowledgement of that meeting. And I think we should have an open discussion about the 1% fund. And if there was a decision not to purchase any more artwork, I think that that should be like, you know, something that's public knowledge, and I wasn't aware of that. And one of the things that came up in that meeting was creating kind of a packet for CPAC of like, hey, this is what's in the permanent collection. This is what art around town looks like. This is the 1% fund, just so that people who are coming onto the commission have like kind of an overview. And then I think in putting that together, it could be a good opportunity to like kind of have clarification on the 1% fund and what its purpose is. If there are amendments needed to that resolution, then we can address that. And so, you know, I think that maybe there's need for, you know, maybe tonight is not the night, but I think that there should be kind of ongoing work to clarify some of those issues, because they are coming up repeatedly. And rather than ignore them, I think that they should just get dealt with, so that moving forward, we know kind of what the procedures are and how we can address them as new things come on board. If there are funds going into that, what happens? Because Lori, I agree, like CPAC, you know, if it's a line item within Public Works and we want to figure out where that maintenance budget comes from, then we should be aware of that and know whether it's coming, like, do we need to ask for more funds for CPAC for that maintenance line item? Or do we want to amend the resolution and say the maintenance is going to come out of the 1%? And I think both of those are options on the table, right? But I think rather than allow it to become a contentious issue, I think we could deal with it in a way that is just more straightforward and upfront.
And definitely work out the kinks of what haven't been dealt with.
Correct, yeah.
There is information on what is permanent for the town, and I believe it's accessible via the town website.
On the website. it's
Just
on the
like-
card.
We tried to
The
look at it.
cards.
I tried to look at it today, and the map went to the art around town sculpture. So if it is available, I don't think it's set up correctly. I mean, I think the link is just misdirected or something, but
Okay.
Well, right out here, you know, there's a card box we have,
Too.
and I just passed it today. And one of the cards is the permanent collection, and one is just this year's art around town. So there's actually that card if you want to have that.
So CPAC used to provide notebooks with all that information you just spoke about to all the new members, and everybody would bring their notebooks and their minutes and be prepared for every meeting. So that has been done in the past. Those conversations of what CPAC decided at that point, whatever years ago that was, they decided not to purchase art, is part of that history.
So
You know, I posed the question, you guys, you can't agree to maintain the stuff you have now. Why do you think you're gonna take the CPAC 1% fund and go buy more art when you can't agree to maintain what you got?
well, I think we can agree if we know what the structures of the budgets are and if we need more funds to support that. Because I think as we look at acquiring new art, one of the conversations should be what's the maintenance schedule and what's the cost, and building that in over the course of the life of that sculpture. And looking at a sculpture as we acquire and saying, this is the feasible life of it, right? Like, I think the climbing sculpture, I don't know when it was installed. I don't know if it's been maintained in the past, but I would like personally suggest that maybe its time has come. And that could be something that as we acquire art, we're saying, okay, this is finished in this way that has a life of 5 years. So we either say we're gonna allocate $1,000 for it to be maintained in 5 years, or we're gonna relinquish our responsibilities after 5 years. And so I think, as stewards of the public art, we should be looking at not just acquiring it, but how we maintain it and where those funds come from. And if Jay Harrington had an idea about what that looked like, I think it could be a time to revisit some of that stuff. And so I think for me, if there is a pool budget and those things exceed the $100,000 limit for the 1%, and we are seeing money go into it, or we are selling more sculptures, and we can say, okay, we've got $10,000. Do we want to purchase a piece at $5,000 and then allocate $2,500 for maintenance? Then I would love to be able to be a part of those decisions. And so I just think, allowing this to be a forum for that would be, I think, good, rather than just, having it be something that keeps coming up without getting resolved.
Well, and I like your idea that certain sculptures really do reach their life cycle. And there's, just because it was great when it was, doesn't mean that we have to keep it forever. I think that's a really
I agree, and Louise probably has some really good information on that. I will say there are some pieces that were purchased and donated in memorial of past CPAC members, and there's conditions that go with those purchases. So, if there was an inventory of that, it would have to be honored. But I think it's great. I don't know how that works for the town. I don't know who makes those decisions on what's arbitrary, what's done, what should be maintained.
Well, if there isn't, there should be a policy if there isn't one already around. Essentially, when you look at it in terms of an asset you acquire, right? It's like anything, it's going to depreciate. Well, art maybe is the exception in terms of depreciation over time, but there should be a policy for accepting, and then there should be a policy for essentially what we call de-accessioning. So there might be, I'm sure there is something within the town for, like if it's public works, machinery, equipment, things like that. Because once the town owns it and it depreciates, if there's a policy, I'm sure, to get rid of it. But there should be a specific one for the artwork that the town owns. So that way, if something has, let's say, outlived its purpose within a particular space, then there would be a policy to say, okay, we've contacted the artist, or we've taken these steps, and you vote as a commission to then say, okay, we do want to, find it a new home or something. Relinquish. There you go. I like that, Chris. It's a good one.
So just to close the loop here on the maintenance item, I'm hearing it should be tabled for another date. Do I have a motion for that?
Well, wait.
Can I make a quick suggestion?
Yes.
If you don't have any money, you might be able to either talk to Kevin directly, the Public Works Director, or go to the Board of Trustees with a budget saying these, based on the limitations of the 1% fund, and we're trying to align our responsibilities, and ask Board of Trustees directly for the cost of the maintenance out of the general fund. And that way it's not coming out of the Public Works Fund that's already allocated, and the sculptures still get maintained without taking money out of the 1% fund, giving CPAC some time to work through what they want to do. But the sculptures still get taken care of before May.
Okay.
Is that our timeline, May?
What?
Well, before Art Around Town, if I think Brittany had mentioned
Well,
May,
I've got
doesn't
painters
have to be.
that can do it
We
later.
were hoping to have them skipped up before the.
Before
year
that,
around
yeah.
time.
I mean, to Kay's point, I think that makes sense, because since my time on here, I don't think we've ever had a joint meeting with the town, with the trustees, and most commissions do that at least once, like just to check in once a year. So I think that's a good way to really broach that subject.
That sounds like a
Yeah.
great stepping stone.
It would be great to have that clarified.
In the
Chairpersons are
resolution
supposed to
or
do that every
amended.
year.
What?
Oh, Chairpersons were supposed to do that every year.
Noted.
We were never invited.
Noted.
We'll contact
But
them.
one has the only, and Luis, you have the expertise for this, but there has to be a real basis for the life of a sculpture, the value of a sculpture. And all I have is history of CPAC, so I'm like one of those old people with too much history, but we had a very small sculpture that was kind of thrown in a park. And a couple people on CPAC, well, we'll just throw it away. It doesn't mean anything, just it's ugly. And we didn't, we were like, no, we can't do that. So we moved it back here. And it's a very unusual piece. I got a call from a gentleman that lives over there by that park. He goes, where did that sculpture go? And I said, oh, it's behind town hall. We cleaned it up. It looks great. It's on marble. That was my friend. And that is a very valuable sculpture. And it is probably the most valuable sculpture in the collection. The artist is passed. And if you look him up, his history is enormous. And it's not a dynamic, and it's my favorite now because I know it's so special.
You learned about its value.
Yeah, so CPAC in the
Man's
past,
is another man's gift.
there's no accountability. And
Well,
where's
I-
the expertise?
Lori, so can you guys hear me? Or
Oh, yeah, we got you, Beth.
am I too loud?
No, you're
Oh, you're
fine.
You're like God up there.
Okay. The green, yeah. So I feel like Lori, exactly the situation that you're referring to, in addition to the other things that we're discussing recently, are just really timely. And speak to the need for what CPAC hasn't really had to date, which is this more formalized, structured, document or documents that speak to all of these different issues. And I think that's what we were starting to try and do. And undoubtedly some of our efforts going forward with that initiative may run contrary to historic things that have happened. But I feel like one of the things that's happening with this board right now and the scope of our responsibilities as members of it is we're experiencing a growth in responsibilities because I think this whole project is growing. And I think the whole project is growing because the town of Carbondale is just exploding, right? So, so our entire kind of scope of responsibility, mission objectives and all that are commensurately growing. So anyhow, I just echo what was being said before, that I see this as an opportunity for CPAC to kind of get more buttoned up on going forward. And Lori, to your point, like I don't have the history even remotely that you do, but it's not irrelevant, the case that you just brought up. And the way you characterize it, I think, was that CPAC, there was no accountability. And putting together some type of documents that speak to our responsibilities, hopefully will hold us more accountable and provide us with more guidance on all these variables going forward. And knowing that we're not perfect and there's going to be flaws in that process too. But I feel it's time to kind of get more buttoned up and have things in paper. And
Yeah. I'm happy to collaborate on whatever that initiative looks like, and I think that, obviously this issue of maintenance is tangled into this web of the history that and the money and the allocation of it.
Right.
And I think they're all
My concern is that we're going to get waylaid by all the other aspects and we're going to lose sight of the fact that these two sculptures need to be addressed. And while I understand that it is entangled, I do think that at this point, if we are going to do the maintenance, we need to decide that now. Because by next month, when we approve it, we've already missed the timeline of availability potentially.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do we
Right.
have the option to vote by email?
I
No,
mean,
And is there any possibility of maintaining or spiffing up the rec center one and holding off on the maybe?
Mhm. Yeah, I would,
How do you maintain it? I mean,
I would personally be like ready to vote to approve the rec center one
mhm,
and,
and have a
and look
discussion.
into how we move forward with the climbing one and what policies exist
Mhm.
for
Okay,
like deacquisition. If we own it, then I don't think we would just like, I think we could contact the artist and say, hey, look, like, this is where we stand with this and explore that option. I would hate to see it just go into a landfill. You know, I think that if the artist is still attached to it, then there's some value there, but
well, you might donate to a school or all kinds of public other things.
Right, I mean, I think that's one of the things we start identifying, potential solutions for, and we explore them.
so
But we don't put this particular issue on hold or this particular sculpture on hold until we get clarity on that. I think we just go ahead, like,
Yeah, and I support everything Michael and David said, because essentially what's in writing precludes us from using the 1% until we get that wording changed to reflect what it should be.
well, and again, I think it would be beneficial then to take a swing at a draft, modifying some of the language. And I think because you guys are so heavily involved, it should come from you.
Or no, actually the town attorney.
Oh, the town
yeah,
attorney?
right.
Okay.
Right.
And personally, like, I don't have an issue with the resolution as it's written. I think the issue is like the CPAC need to have a maintenance fund. And if there's funds available in the 1% fund and we want to say, hey, we're going to allocate this over to the CPAC budget and create a line item that's a maintenance fund, then I think that's fine. I mean, I kind of like the protection that it's not that 1% for the arts isn't for maintenance, and that if you acquire a new piece, then you set aside money for its maintenance into that maintenance fund. I mean, I don't know that we just need to like change the way that resolution is written. I think we need to explore like what the best course moving forward is. And to me, that's like when you acquire a piece, you acknowledge that there's ongoing costs, and
Yeah.
maybe that comes from the 1%, maybe it doesn't. But like you mentioned, if Parks and Rec owns that memorial, then as the 1% budget is written, then they acquired that, and that they would be responsible for that maintenance, not Public Works. And so I think that if all that just needs to get untangled, then that's the part that to me needs to just like be an ongoing discussion. But like, I agree with you, Brittany, that there's two sculptures that need immediate attention. And I think we can compartmentalize that a little bit and say, hey, let's address these two now.
I would appreciate that.
And if we know that the rec center sculpture is going to be $1,200, I guess my question would be, is there room in the existing CPAC budget to do that?
It depends on how much the reception costs.
Yeah.
I'll have to talk to Kevin about all of this. We won't make that decision, Kevin will, or Lauren.
Would it be the attorney that drafts the policy on the maintenance and how we take care of things going forward? I mean, if we're talking about a policy, who would be the one to write that?
Probably town attorney.
Mhm.
We can provide suggestions though, yes?
Well, they would learn the intention. of
Yeah,
what
yeah,
was trying
and
to
then
be
they would.
done.
And I'd be
translate
happy,
to legalese.
happy to like reference existing language and submit that for review, you know.
I think it would be important for the rest of the board to get caught up on what transpired with the meeting you guys had. 'Cause
Yeah, no, I agree.
that would be the first step, so then we can all be on the same page. And then as a group, move forward.
Yeah, so I think that as a quick recap, and David can probably add to this a little bit more. That was just a meeting for us to discuss, I think, some of these outstanding issues with the 1% fund as the resolution is currently written. And then how we're moving forward, given that there is this kind of visible growth happening and potential projects that would fall under that. I think they're all issues that have been raised before. I don't have any like notes handy to really give any detailed synopsis, but one of those things was the element of the 1% fund that encourages CPAC members to reach out to private development and encourage them to kind of follow the guidelines of the 1% fund. And there's very vague language around that, but I think as proponents of public art, there have been projects that come up. And I think in the past, people with the town have directed those developments and encouraged them to pursue some public art, but it's been informal. They have or haven't come to CPAC. And so I think we want to know, is there a channel for us to know when these projects come up that either meet the eligibility of 1% from the town's perspective, or if there's a private development, what's the proper channel for us to encourage them to integrate public art into their development?
Like, for instance, the new.
What?
There really is none. I'll be honest. Anything that's private, we have no purview over what they
Sure.
do. So as long, if it's like the new aquatic, facility that the town is that's going to be up on the ballot, that is something that would fall into that.
Totally.
1%.
But
If
not
it's a
like
town.
this new senior living.
No,
But
nothing like
the
that.
resolution does say that CPAC is encouraged,
You can,
like to encourage them. And I think that there should be a channel for that rather than some just like, because one of the options is like, is there a question on an application that says like, will you be including public art, right? And I'm not saying that we would review it or that we would approve it or that we have any jurisdiction over
Right.
enforcing it. That's, I think, not the question. I think the question is, as new develops arise, advocating for the value of integration of public art.
I think you can certainly advocate for that integration. I know in the past, a perfect example is that new development of the storage facility up on 133. My understanding is they actually came here and they were turned away, so they went to Carbondale Arts.
Right.
So, it's, if there is a process, I would agree that, and it's gonna change through different boards, that it's something to advocate for. I completely agree with you, Michael.
Which storage facility did you say was shut?
The new development that's transpiring right off of the roundabout, that's gonna be.
And.
It's not even in the roundabout. I thought it was the one next to the.
It's over
power
by
station.
Raft.
Next to the power plant.
Next to the power plant.
My mistake.
Out of curiosity, like, you guys, they had approached us, and it seems we turned them down. They went to CPAC, and did they end up exploring a mural? Or did they end up doing a sculpture install? How did that play out?
To the best of my knowledge, Carbondale Arts is like working with them on integration of murals at the site. But that's the best of my knowledge. I'm not involved in it directly.
Yeah.
I remember the
And
presentation.
I just like to clarify, it wasn't CPAC that turned them away. Jay said, we cannot, this was his opinion,
Yeah.
and he was the town manager. We cannot accept sculpture on private property and accept responsibility for maintaining it on private property.
Makes sense.
So that's how it got turned away. It wasn't really that it came to us and we took a vote.
I think as an advisory committee, you can still have input about what goes out there. You know, if you decide that's one way you want to go with engagement, but you're right, you can't, on private property, you can't have public.
Totally.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that came up in our meeting was that some of the in this particular instance, they were looking for a mural, or ultimately that seems to be the direction they're going in. And if that were something that were to be of interest to other developers going forward, that potentially do we look to Carbondale Arts to do that, because that's within their wheelhouse type of thing. And I'm not suggesting that we vote on that right now, but we're becoming aware that as the town is growing, these requests for public art collaborations or partnerships will continue to grow, and they might not all be in the form of sculpture. And murals aren't really under our jurisdiction, or maybe they are, and I don't know that. But this was one of the things we were talking about.
Well, you know,
in our
I'm
meeting
just gonna be
process.
completely honest here. We've had a spot on the highway empty for a couple years, and CPAC can't seem to fill that. You know, we can't agree on the 3rd Street art. So it would be very frustrating to take on more projects because we can't fill what we have.
What do you mean we won't fill it and we can't?
It's been empty for a couple years.
So that means we have 17 pieces we could choose, or 16.
No, that's all. It was meant for local art, like 3rd Street. We've got 3 local.
But we didn't
spaces.
vote on that either. That never came here for discussion.
I'm just saying, we can't fulfill what CPAC cannot fulfill what they have.
Got
And
it.
it's very focused mission. It's the art around town, period. And I think that's enough for this commission's plate. And if we could get an inventory list of cycling through the permanent collection, that would be fantastic. I've been trying to find a professional maintenance person to do the work. I'm not gonna go do the wax the bronzes and stuff. I mean, what if I screw them up?
I didn't know that. So us as CPAC commission could suggest from the permanent collection that things go in some empty spots right now?
No, not the permanent collection.
So from what would we?
Well, it's like on 3rd Street, we have 2 local artists that donated their sculptures just to have them there.
Oh, on Thursday.
Yeah. And we have a spot out on the highway that's been empty for a couple years.
And that's meant for a local artist.
Yeah.
Sculpture.
Because we don't have the honorarium, right?
There's no money. It's just a chance
the
to display
additional-
their sculpture
Yeah.
and
Right,
market.
so have we solicited in the past for that? No.
What has happened, it's been a local kind of organic process, very free flowing. Chet has approached, or I've talked to Chet. Dick Arnold approached me, so we have the Eagle. They have contracts with the town because, we do insure it, but they don't get an honorarium. So it's kind of a place for local people, or if an opportunity comes up, and it's always been there, it's been discussed, but nothing ever happens.
Well, I mean, I understand that there may have been complications or failure to fulfill responsibilities in the past, but I would love to see that change. And I think there is a resolution for CPAC and for the 1%. And I think as stewards of the public art, it would be great if we could work towards fulfilling those responsibilities. And I mean, I'm happy to look at that and figure out how I can take the lead on some of it or collaborate with whomever it is. And either if it's, clarifying what the role is or acting on the role. So, you know, just,
Because I don't think it's something we can't do and that we can only handle the art around town. Maybe it's all we have done in the past.
No, that's been discussed at length too,
With the
taking
other-
on more projects,
But
you know.
soliciting local artists. I mean, it just seems like, yeah, if there were a few people that wanted to contact some of those local artists, just so that we know that we are maybe instrumental in doing that. I mean, I heard about that on Third Street, but I didn't know that, hey, we have another spot over here and let's tell more local artists.
Well, and it
There
comes
is-
down
there-
to,
There hasn't been any formal
Kind of committee to do.
solicitation, which seems like a more fair and open process than people who might contact Public Works.
Right. Because
And-
like Joe Burley, like,
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like I never thought, hey, Joe, do you have something you want to put in any of those places?
Yeah.
I mean, even when he was on the committee, did he know that that was an option for him? He did.
Well, it's not, it's an option for local artists. They
there-
would be rotated in at the same time the new show would be rotated in. If you're on the commission, typically you don't submit. You have a conflict of interest.
Is there an application process for that?
No, it was all just a free-flowing, organic process, and that was the intention.
So it would be okay for some of us to talk to, say, Joe or Wally or some of Mark's, you know, some of these local, and say, you know, we still have spots if you have anything. you
Yeah,
want.
we have talked to Wally. But yeah, and you know, just start putting the bug in there and say, we're gonna rotate out May. And it's there for a year, so, yeah,
This would be good timing for that.
yeah.
yeah.
So will those sculptures that are on Third Street, will they stay for this show or
They'll
will they
probably be
be?
removed.
They'll probably be removed. So there's really 3 local sculptures that we need to.
Well, 3 just on Third Street, right?
Pardon?
How many are
Two.
there?
Two.
There's 2 spots on
Mhm.
there?
Yeah, one on
One
the
on-
highway.
And
the
one on
highway.
Yeah, you're right.
May I make a suggestion that we table some of this deeper discussion about the items we've been talking about in order to gather and get on the same page, and then we can bring it up in another agenda.
Mhm.
And I was gonna say, if there's things that you want us like homework to read, think of things you've gathered about the 1%, so that we don't need to have too much time taken getting us filled in. Maybe that'd be a good way to get. started.
Yeah, please circulate the information you've obtained and or have so that we can all be on the same page for the next time we discuss this. Do I have a motion to do that in general?
yeah, I think if we put the 1% or just clarification of roles on the agenda for the next meeting, that would be great. And then do we have a vote on agreeing to restore the rec center sculpture and learn more about the policy on the climbing sculpture?
I'm happy to look into what the policy is. I'll do that separate of this meeting, and what I find I'll circulate so we all have that. And it'll
Because it's not
probably,
something We wanna wait till April to.
no. there-
Doesn't Joe know the artist for that climbing sculpture? He keeps referring to him.
I thought he contacted.
Yeah. I mean, it's already kind of been discussed in the town. If you guys want, instead of maintaining that climbing thing, you could probably vote to have it removed. And then there would just need to be an outreach to the artists. They want it back. If not, then it'll just go away instead of maintaining it. And
When you
is there
say go
such a-
away, would we donate it to an entity? I mean, like, I don't want it, like you said, to end up in the landfill.
It depends on also how hard it is to remove.
Right. Or
Right.
could it be recycled as part of
It's
the
a-
children's art park or something and they painted polka dots or something?
It's in a
Make it up.
concrete vault. So if we pull the concrete vault out, not sure, or who's gonna take it from there,
Hmm.
or you could just probably cut it right off at the base and off it goes.
Off of your head.
The only thing I would advise is obviously whichever way you guys decide, really line up whoever is going to receive it and know that, you know, the town's responsibility ends at its removal. So whoever is accepting it then has to undertake that cost of, you know.
And
yeah,
takes it from there.
Yeah, so.
But if
Maybe we
it's a
should
concrete vault, I mean, it's gonna, you
all
have to have.
commit to looking at it between now and the next meeting.
I don't think so either. I think we need to table all of this.
Really information to make a motion.
Yeah, no, I think we need to table it all and discuss this at a later date. Do we have a motion for that?
I'll motion that.
Thank you. A
Second.
second? Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. On that note, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I motion we adjourn.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I second.
Lovely. All in favor? Aye. Thank you guys for coming out tonight.
And thank you for all your work for giving us these. This packet.
Yep.